Evan Rachel Wood, you star in Westworld as Dolores, an artificially intelligent host in this futuristic theme park that recreates the Wild West. Now, just the premise of the show feels like kind of a bold gamble to a certain degree. What were your initial thoughts when the show first came to your attention?
I had very limited information about it. For a meeting with Lisa Joy and Jonathan Nolan, the writers and showrunners. And they just sort of laid it out for me. They told me how they were revamping it, the possibilities of the park. I was familiar with the original movie, but when they explained to me that this was going to be more from the host perspective and sort of seeing it from a different angle, I was really intrigued by that. And then when the character of Dolores was brought up, they were very, very careful about what they told me, but they wanted to make sure that I knew that she was the classic stereotype for the wide-eyed prairie girl. Just her core programming is that she just sees the beauty in everything. She's the most genuine, kind of big-hearted girl who goes through a lot of trauma, and sort of her main role in this park is to give people an outlet to, yeah, for lack of a better word, torture this girl. Because in fantasy, you would either want to be the knight in shining armor and swoop down and save her, or you wouldn't want to tie her to the train tracks. And what would that be like if you became aware that that was your role? And if you could start remembering, and if you could start to see your own programming, and if you realized your entire reality was a lie. So these were just things that I had never been asked to do, never really heard anything like it. It seemed really unique and really special. And they just told me that she was going to start off one way and end very differently. And they wanted me to be sure that I knew that she wasn't going to stay the same way. She wasn't going to stay this stereotype. So to not be put off by how she was going to start in the beginning. So I thought, okay, happened, but I really trust you guys. You're brilliant. Everything you touch is brilliant. So I don't think I would have felt comfortable walking in so blindly into anything unless these people were behind it. And, people like J.J. Abrams and the rest of the cast just immediately drew me to the project, of course.
Now, the story goes through so many twists and turns as the first season goes along. It was a bit of a leap of faith just to sign on board. But were you getting a lot of information about where the story was going as it was progressing, or were you kind of learning it episode by episode?
I learned episode by episode. The rest of the cast members were doing our best to figure out the show as it was progressing. And we had a group chat, and every time we would get a new script, everyone would be in the group chat saying what they think, saying their theories. And along the way, I started having feelings about certain things. I was kind of piecing it together. I got some information early on that I probably shouldn't have had. We were on the ride. I mean, going to work was very much like walking into Westworld, where you became a character and you had kind of no idea what was going to happen next. So you, as an actor, you very much just lived in the moment. And I think it really helped us just give everything we had to each and every scene and each and every beat, not knowing where it was going. So we could just fully commit and not give anything away. But it wasn't until about episode 4 that I really started to understand my character and the gravity and how deep they were going. And I had a moment of my breath kind of being taken away once I realized what was on my shoulders. But I was also so excited and so inspired. And the more I read and the deeper I went with this character, the more I was just so moved and so inspired and so passionate about it. And I knew we had the opportunity to make something really incredible and go into kind of uncharted waters, especially with Dolores. I don't think anybody was really expecting where she was headed.
Given the way this character changes and evolves over the course of the season, and you're not necessarily given the whole picture when you're making the show, as you go along. When you got to the end of the season, you figured out where Dolores was going, the way her consciousness was evolving. Did you look back on any of the season and think, oh, I understand that scene better, or oh, I would have played that differently, or anything like that?
Luckily, I didn't look back on anything and wish I had played it differently. And I think a lot of that was because the writers and creators were the way, giving us just enough information. Like, they just did such a good job at leading us to water, but and giving us answers without showing us the big picture. So I always felt like I had just enough to go off on. But yes, there was certainly, I think it was around episode 7 or 8, information that, spoiler alert, I was merged with another character. And one could think, well, that's useful information to have. But looking back on the season and how they were directing me in certain moments, I realized that they were dropping hints along the way for this Jekyll and Hyde element to Dolores. I realized, oh, okay, so I'm actually really playing 3 or 4 different characters. I'm Dolores in full character mode. I'm a highly intelligent computer in analysis mode. I'm a completely different character in Wyatt mode. And then there's this kind of blend of all of them. And she's literally at war with herself the whole time, with all these different pieces of herself she's trying to put together. And she's living in the past, the present, and the future. So it was almost like being on 2 different shows. You were getting helicoptered into the desert in these remote locations, and and then you would be in 2001, in a Kubrick film, getting grilled by Anthony Hopkins with no clothes on, and it was quite a trip to go on. I will say that.
And an interesting thing about the situation of these hosts is that in a weird way it might be kind of like how an actor goes through the world disappearing into these different characters and experiences. Although of course as an actor you get to some choice as to what roles you want to assume and how, and the hosts of course don't. But did that help you kind of relate to the hosts in any degree? Being an actor and spending your career putting on these different roles.
Yes, there was a night, actually, James Marsden and I were doing a scene, and it was in the last episode on the beach where I'm dying in his arms and this very kind of Gone with the Wind way. And someone came up to us and they said, God, it's just so heartbreaking what they do to these hosts. They sit there and they put them through all these horrible things, and they play with their emotions for entertainment. And James and I kind of looked at each other and went, that's a little bit like what we do. We're here really getting dragged through the mud and beaten and crying and, just putting ourselves through hell, for entertainment purposes. So sure, yeah, in a way, I think every actor at some point has felt or been treated like they were some sort of doll or puppet or robot, that was just, that wasn't actually a real person with real emotions. So yeah, it certainly gave me a unique perspective on it.
By the end of the season, Dolores is kind of fully awakened to her consciousness. She sort of reached the center of that maze that they were alluding to all season. Then she shoots Anthony Hopkins' character Ford. Though I don't know if any deaths on this show can be considered entirely definitive from a viewer standpoint. You never know. What did you think about that ending and the possibilities that opens up for season 2?
I thought the way that they handled all the reveals and the final episode, I watched so many times. It was one of the best pieces of television I've seen, and I felt so lucky and grateful to be a part of something that was so massive and complicated and an incredible piece of filmmaking, but also the storytelling. We all kind of had feelings about the Man in Black reveal and about who Wyatt may be and I think as an audience member, you're supposed to kind of figure it out along the way as well. But when you get that payoff and you get the explanation, and because we have such incredible actors on the show, the performances to sell these moments just made them kind of, I don't know, to me, it was just breathtaking. I literally couldn't breathe while I was watching it. And I knew that this sort of Man in Black reveal was coming. And I knew that we'd been dropping hints about it throughout the whole first season. And I knew there was going to be a moment where this character realizes the love of her life is also her nightmare. Heartbreaking and traumatic that would be. And if that moment of realization doesn't work, then this whole season and this moment that we've been building up to is just going to fall flat and be disappointing. I both knew when we were filming that scene, that big fight scene, and that big moment when the bomb is dropped. Such care went into that. We spent the whole day filming it, and I really just a place. And I think it's one of the things I'm most proud of in my career is that scene. It was just so emotional, but the way she gets up and that brilliant monologue that Lisa Joy wrote that she gives to Man in Black, which I think a lot of women would feel like you could put the face of every ex you've ever had kind of on Ed Harris. It was like the most brilliant breakup speech of all time. But also somebody claiming their power and facing their trauma and looking it dead in the eye and saying, "I'm not broken. You're the one that's broken. And one day you are going to disappear, but I'm still going to be here." And I was just so incredibly moved by it and thought it was such a powerful stance and such a cool thing to see as a woman and as an actress. You never get to play those kinds of roles or have moments like that. So that was and then when I read how the entire season ended and then I had to shoot Anthony Hopkins in the head, I think I read the script and got to the last page and my jaw just went, and I just threw it down and walked away and couldn't believe it. Because I thought at some point maybe that would happen, but I had no idea it was going to happen first season, final frame. But I was really excited by it because it was like we finally get to understand all the layers of Dolores, which I'm sure there are many more. But having gone through this journey with her swimming through repressed memories and feeling like she's going mad and finally getting to a moment where she realizes who she is. It was just so satisfying to do, but it was terrifying having to hold an actual gun up to Anthony Hopkins' head. That was probably the most nerve-wracking thing I've ever done in my entire career. The gun was not loaded, and obviously we're very safe, but good Lord, every take, I was just praying that I didn't have to carry this for the rest of my life. It's like, I don't want to be responsible for killing Anthony Hopkins. It's really not. Um, but
Yeah, that'll be something to put on your you know your tombstone when all is said and done. You know, she's the one who killed Anthony Hopkins.
I'm really glad that that didn't happen.
Dolores with a more complete consciousness now. You know, how is that gonna change the way you approach the character in season two? Because it feels almost like this character going forward would be, you know, a completely different kind of person.
That's what I'm hoping. Because again, she is so advanced and so intelligent, and probably is capable of so much more than we even know yet, or that I even know, or the audience knows. So I really want to see what it's like now that she's claimed her power and understands it and is let off her leash, and I'm assuming is going to go on some sort of revenge spree. I don't know, but I would like to see some sort of revolution start, and I will be sad, you know, if the original character that we've come to know and love so well is kind of no longer there. But I am excited by the idea that she very well may be a completely different character, possibly the greatest villain that Westworld's ever seen is still the Prairie Girl, but harboring the soul of this man named Wyatt. That's brilliant storytelling, and something we don't see very often, and again, something that you don't normally get to do. So I'm very excited and curious to kind of sink my teeth into that and see where this is going and see how Dolores evolves over time, because I really think she's just getting started. So who knows? Who knows?
And, the show has been well received by critics and the industry. You know, got off to a great start with, you know, Golden Globe nominations and, you know, SAG nominations for the cast. You won the Critics' Choice Award. What was it like to get that kind of recognition right away? Because the show had just aired and this recognition starts coming in.
There's no better feeling than when you love something so much and you've invested so much time and energy and love into it, and you're a fan, and to have people respond just as strongly, and also we're kind of doing the same things you were doing while making it, and, you know, spouting theories and getting involved in it. It did what I hoped it would do, which was bring together this kind of community, which I think is one of the best parts about television and being invested in a show like this. I think with a show like this and the themes that it's touching upon about human nature and the way we're prisoners of our own kind of false realities and our programming, and questioning the world around us and who we really are, it's an important show. So the fact that it is reaching such a wide audience, and I think making people ask questions that they wouldn't normally, is literally a dream come true. I would do this show forever if I could. It's incredible.
And you've been working in film and television for quite a while now, and you have been getting recognition, you know, from a young age, you know, from Once and Again to 13, and you know, with 13, you were a teenager yourself when that was getting all that awards attention. You were nominated for Golden Globe back then and a SAG award. What was it like getting that recognition at such a young age?
Surreal. Acting my entire life. I started in theater at a really young age. My father runs a regional theater in North Carolina, where I'm from. And him and my mother performed there my whole life, and directed plays. And then I started taking the stage. And then I started doing movies in elementary school. And by the time I was 12, I was working so consistently, and I had gotten Once and Again, and I was on that for 3 years, that I went into homeschool and kind of got my schooling out of the way very quickly, graduated when I was 15, And then 13 was out, basically a freshman in high school, and had really not thought about fame or, you know, I really prided myself on being about the work and loving the art and being invested in it in that way. I went to acting class Monday, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays because my mom taught at an acting studio. I mean, it was just all in my blood. And then I helped teach little kids on Saturdays. So then when like 13 hit and all of a sudden it was red carpets and interviews and everyone is singing your praises, you know, it's for a shy kind of socially awkward actor kid. It was interesting, but I think I was up for the challenge because I saw it as an opportunity to be able to do more work that I wanted to do and work with people I wanted to work with, and, you know, opportunities to work with others, and it just opened so many doors. And the fame part took a second to get used to, but I think once you kind of make peace with it, and once you're also more settled in who you are as a person, I think it's hard when you're a kid because you don't really know who you are yet, or where you fit in the world and what image you're supposed to be projecting. And so it can be, you know, a lot. But I think once I got more comfortable in my own skin and more sure about who I was, then these kind of positive things that could come from fame and from being a kind of role model, and you know, the responsibility that comes with that. And, you know, now I have a kid, and it just makes you look at everything differently. And you know, the things that used to get under your skin don't really get under your skin that much anymore, and you just try to focus on the positives.
You've been nominated also for an Emmy once before for Mildred Pierce, and of course Westworld is now getting some Emmy buzz. So you know, if you're nominated for this, you know, actors in for series have to submit an episode for consideration to Emmy judges. You mentioned you know, how much you love the season finale, but do you think you would submit that episode, or is there another episode that you are particularly fond of or proud of during the season that you might enter?
I really love that 10th episode. For me, that was just, everything came together and came full circle, and it's just the release. So I think I would say either episodes 9 and 10. I love the 5th episode too. I really did love all of the that Jimmy Simpson and I did, even though we were kind of afraid the whole first season that he might be the Man in Black. This was going to end quite badly. We just tried to shove that out of our minds and commit so fully to making this romance believable and making these characters really fall in love, so that when that moment did come, it was actually twice as devastating. So I really loved some of the work we did in the 5th episode there too. I feel like that's when Dolores starts kind of waking up. But I do love a fully woke Dolores.
You know, looking forward to more of certainly now the fully woke Dolores on a rampage in season. And I want to wish you the best of luck on you know, the Emmys, and of course season 2 coming up. And thank you so much for talking to me today.
Yeah, thank you very much.